Hey there. Today, no. Hey there. Today I wanted to show you how to make a 2D top-down movement in Godot. So this is just a tutorial for like complete Godot beginners, and hopefully you learn a thing or two. I'll try to not just show you how to get things done, but I'll try to explain how all of this works. So let's just get into it. I created a new project. If you do the same, this is what you should see. So let's just go ahead and create our scene. So in Godot, games are comprised of different scenes, and we are going to make a top-down game, so a 2D game. So we want to create a 2D scene. We can do that here. As you can see, we need to create a root node, and that root node is going to be a node 2D. I just clicked on 2D scene, and as you can see, it switched to 2D view, and we can see all of that. So just some basic things: you can move the screen around by pressing the mouse wheel button and dragging, and also you can zoom with the mouse wheel. You can select things either by left clicking here or left clicking here, up here in the scene tab, or by holding down left click and just dragging a box. Okay, so first off, let's rename our root node. I'll just double click on it, and I'll just type in something like, I don't know, map. And now I'll just press Ctrl S to save the scene, and as you can see, map.tscn is perfect for us, so I'll just click on save. Alright, as you can see, it up here it changed from unsaved to map. Alright, so let's immediately get going. We are going to add our character. For player characters, we generally, there are a few exceptions, but for 2D games we want to create a character body 2D. So I just, up here in the search bar, I just start typing in character, and as you can see, character body 2D is there. So I'll just double click on this, and as you can see, it added it to the scene. We cannot see anything yet, and that's because in Godot basically everything is comprised of nodes, and different nodes have different purposes. So for example, under this character body, I'll want to add two nodes. I'll add a sprite 2D. I just typed in sprite, same thing as we did with the character body, double click on it, and I'll just add a collision shape 2D as well. The sprite node will display an image on the screen, and the collision shape 2D will tell the game how to handle its collisions, what the collision box of this character body will be. So when we go to sprite, as you can see in the inspector tab, we have a texture property. So we'll take our icon, which you can find here in the file system tab, and just click and drag it to our texture property, and as you can see, our icon appeared on the screen. Now for the and if you want to import different sprites or different drawings, you can just add them to your projects file, and they should appear here, and you can just drag them to the sprite, to the texture property. Now for the collision shape, here in the shape property, we are going to click on this empty text, and as you can see, we can select a couple of different things. These are pretty self-explanatory, like a circle shape is going to be a circle, a rectangle is going to be a rectangle, and as you can see, this is quite well rectangular, this sprite, so I'm going to select the rectangle shape 2D. And if you look, I said rectangle shape, and if you look closely, there is a blue box in the middle of our sprite, and there are a couple of like orange dots on the ends of it, and what we are going to do is grab these orange dots, and using these we can adjust this collision shape, and we can just simply drag it out through the edges of our sprite. The engine just froze. Okay, we are back. Yes, we can drag these out. Okay, excellent. And now, as you can see, this blue thing is covering our character. Alright, now if we start the game by using this big play button, it says that we have no main scene selected. And the main scene is the scene that is going to launch when you open your game or when you launch your game. So typically in a bigger project, the main scene is going to be the main menu, but here I am going to select our map as the main scene, so I'll just select the current scene. But you could also do what you could also do is just click on select, and here it should show all of your scenes, and I'll just double click on the map.tscn. Alright, and as you can see, it launched our game. We didn't write any code yet, so there is nothing going to be happening. But as you can see, our player is kind of awkwardly in the corner. We don't really want that. We want our player to be somewhere in the middle. And well, of course, we could go in here, down in the inspector tab to transform, and just set a position for it, like 500 and 312. I just typed in random stuff. If you really want to center it, you can go to project settings, then window, and check your resolution, and of course half is each of these numbers, and type those in there. But if you just want to like eyeball it or place something somewhere, just, you know, completely at random, if you just, you know, click on our player and start to drag it, as you can see, it didn't move the whole player, it just moved the collision shape 2D. What you want to do in this situation is click on our character body and then click on this little icon here, which makes it so that these nodes children, its children being the sprite and the collision shape 2D, aren't selectable. So if I just click on it, it moves the whole thing around. So and you can just click on this icon here or up here to return it back to normal, to make its children selectable again. Alright, now let's begin with writing the code. So first off, I just like to rename my character body to player, and then we are going to add a script. The way we do that is by clicking this little like scroll icon up here, and our language is going to be GD script, and of course it should inherit from a character body 2D, because that is the type of node we are writing a script for. Now here in template we have a couple of different templates. We have the default template, which is what I like to use. We have basic movement, which is really useful if you are creating a platformer movement, because if you just select this, then everything will be coded for you and you will be able to move your player around with the arrow keys, and it will code the platformer movement for you. And we also have empty, which is just an empty script, but I am just going to select the node. The path is fine. The player.gd will be the script's name. As you can see, everything is alright, so let's just click on create. And here we have our script. So we have a couple of different functions in this default template. We have a ready function, which is called when this node enters this scene for the first time, or when it basically comes into existence. And then the process function is called every frame. So but you know, these comments are pretty useful in telling you that. I'm just going to zoom in a bit so you can see clearly. So so let's just go ahead. First, I want to create a couple of different materials. I want to define the speed of the player, and and basically that's it. But I do want to define the speed of the player. So because I want a player whose speed is constant, so you cannot change it later through scripts. I am going to create a constant, which you do by typing const and then the name of your variable, so speed. I typed it in all caps because we usually give constants name in full caps. You can just, you know, type anything you want. Typing it in all caps is not a requirement, but it's just, you know. And we'll just, you know, type in a number. I'll just say, I don't know, 300. It really doesn't matter. We can change this later, but not because it's a constant, not through the script, but, you know, outside of the game. If you wanted to define a variable, which you can change later, you would type var and then the name of your variable, and then just, you know, some number. But constant is fine for us. All right. Now, let's get into movement. The way you detect inputs in Godot is by going if input dot is action. Yeah, we have a couple of different options here. Press is called when the button is down, so if you hold down the button it should be called every frame. Just pressed is only called when you press the button, so if you hold down the button it will only get called once, and is action just released only gets called when you release the button. So because we want to, if we hold down a button, we want to move forward continuously, I'm going to use the action is action pressed and a function, and then as you can see here we have a couple of different options. These are all built-in actions, but unfortunately there is no built-in action for W, and I want the movement to be built around the WASD keys. So the way we can change that is by going here to project settings, input map, and then we can add the new action. Just here we can type in its name. This name can be anything you want. I'll just call it what it is, so W, press add, and then we need to press this plus icon right here, and then just press the button that we want assigned to this action, so it should be W. I just pressed W, and as you can see, this W input now detects the W key, and I'll just do the same for A, S, and D as well. Alright, there we go. And now here we need to add quotation marks and then press W. As you can see, it would, if it would be longer, it would autofill for us. We can complete this autofill by pressing tab. Okay. Now let's focus on movement. So the kinematic, character body already has a couple of built-in things for movement. The main thing being this velocity variable. This is a vector, so it contains two values in Godot, an x and a y value. So if we want to, if we press W, we of course want to move up. So up in Godot, as you can see here in the transform, up in Godot is the negative value in the on the y-axis. So as you can see, if I just this is the y 190 height, and if I type in something that is smaller than 190, like 100, it will move up. So just reset it. So we want to assign a value to y, And what that value is of course our speed, but our speed is a positive value, so we want to change that by just you know, inverting it, or yeah, basically this constant. Okay, next thing, we'll use an else if statement, which is elif in Godot, and just the same input dot is action pressed, and now we want to go down, and I'll explain this in a moment. And this is just the inverse of the previous line of code. You know, this time the speed is just positive, and then what we'll do is type else, and then velocity.y should be equal to 0. So why we did this, why we did else ifs, is because this says that if the W action is pressed, it will assign the minus speed, so minus 300 value to the to velocity.y. But if we release the W, then that value will still, you know, remain assigned, and the player would continue moving upwards. So that is why you need to do an else if it is S, then it should be the opposite of that number, and if no and if W and if neither W or the S key is pressed, then the velocity.y should be 0. And now we should do the same thing, but for the x-axis. So what we are going to do is if input.is action pressed, and then let's start with going right, so D, then velocity.x instead of .y is equal to speed. In Godot, yeah, the positive this is the positive direction on the x-axis, the going right, and going left is the negative direction, so it should be just fine. And then elif, not this, but input dot is action pressed, and then A, then velocity.x should be equal to minus speed. Okay, and now if we play the scene, by the way, you can press also this button also to play the scene, to play the game. This big play button will launch the default or the main scene that we selected earlier, but this button will only launch the scene that is currently selected. So there we go. As you can see, if I just press WASD, nothing happens. Why is that? Well, we assign these values to the velocity.y variable, but the game doesn't do anything yet. This is a really simple fix. All we need to do is type in move and slide, and that's it. It used to be a bit more complicated in Godot 3, but since it's changed, and now all you need to do is just type in move and slide. So now if we launch the game, I can move around perfectly, and I forgot to code it to stop when I am not pressing the A or D buttons. I forgot the else, so else velocity.y is equal to 0, and now it should work perfectly. No, because that's velocity.x, of course. And now it should work perfectly. And yeah, there we go. That's top-down movement for you. It's not that difficult, and I think, you know, you could code this. Just one thing that you should avoid is try not to just copy the code, but also understand how it works, because you don't want to get stuck in like the tutorial purgatory, which is basically when you are just copying every tutorial, but you can't do anything, you know, on your own. So just try to understand how the engine works, how the GDScript language works itself, and just try to build from there. So yeah, that was my tutorial. I hope you enjoyed. If you liked the video, then please like and subscribe, and consider supporting me on my Patreon. It helps a ton. Goodbye and take care.